wonderful to be with you. We have about 50 minutes together. And as wonderful Sheila said, I am Betsy Weirda. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. My background is special education. I'm currently working as a coach and consultant with Franklin Covey, and I also work as a keynote speaker around the country. I'm typically focused on 7 habits, empowering students, and assisting teachers as they leave their classroom. So it's great to be with you. My best job in the world is mom. I have 3 grown children, and 2 of the 3 are here in my house living with me right now during this COVID time. And so I just want to say up front, the scene you see behind me, by the way, it's nice, right? It looks gorgeous. It's not my home. If you saw my home right now with 3 families and a dog and 1 grandchild, you would, yeah, you probably might not want to attend this webinar. It's pretty chaotic. So I went ahead and changed the scenery just for today, but I wanted to let you know that I'm also living in challenging times as 4 of us are working together in the same home and sharing office space and computer Wi-Fi and that type of thing. So again, welcome today. It's great to have you here. As a mom and an educator, I'm happy to share some information with you, but this is about you. So I do encourage you to please put your messages and your feedback into the chat box. And there will be times that we'll just open up the mute button and have you chat out and debrief as a whole group as well. So welcome to Wildly Important Wellness. And this is about taking a proactive approach to embracing and really growing resilience during challenging times. So we're going to start out this morning. Alicia, if you go ahead and flip that.
I want to find what Nora doing.
Okay.
What is Nora doing?
We're going to go to the next slide. We could. And by the way, we have a couple people who are not on mute. So if you would push your mute button down at the bottom of your screen, that will help us so that we don't hear any background noise. Thank you. Here are our intended outcomes for today, everyone. Let's take a look. So I know that we're here to gain strategies for our families. And what I want to say just up front is that most of this presentation and this meeting and this gathering and this sharing time will be about you. Because you as leaders of your families need to stay well and healthy so that your family thrives through this time and through any time. So we'll be talking about your wellness primarily today. Go ahead, Alicia. Next slide. Let's blow that up just a little bit if you can, Alicia. We're going to start with what's called the change model, some research around change. I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more I don't like change. Change gets a little bit more difficult for me as I get older. And so with this big change in our lives, and let's face it, everybody, our lives have turned upside down. Things are very, very different now, and you know that. And so we're in the midst of this change. Can you make it just a little bit bigger, Alicia? No? Okay.
No, not without. All right. Well, I can try.
Okay. I think the main point is that we can see the little words that say zone of disruption. That's really where we are right now in the world. And so we're feeling it in different ways. As I said, I have 3 families under one roof. I have a 2-year-old grandchild and a bulldog here. It's a little bit challenging. You're also going through some challenges. Some of you have kids that are online in school, little children, and that zone of disruption can lead to a couple of things. And this is what I want to share with you this morning, and then I want to get your feedback. We could stay there. Research says that we as adults could stay in that zone of disruption and just completely stay overwhelmed mentally and emotionally. We could stay there through this challenge, and that's really our choice. Dr. Covey would say we do have a choice as human beings, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Or we could head over to what we call the point of decision. In that time or that place, that mental space in our head, we decide, okay, this is the change. This is what's happening. And I'm going to take action in a number of ways with my family, with my work, with my own wellness, so that my family can thrive, not just survive, but can thrive during this time. Some people get to the zone of innovation. And that's really when I work with educators, I'm pushing them to really get into that zone of, hey, look, let's get creative. I know this is a rough time. It's a scary time. There's fear. It's a fearful time. what can we do to be creative when our children are at home, our students are at home, our families are in need? And so I'm pushing them to step out and take some risks. So here's my question for you, friends, parents today. Where are you personally? Are you still stuck in that area of disruption? And sometimes, you know, we waver back and forth. Are you in that zone of innovation where you're almost kind of embracing the opportunity to do some things differently? Alicia, would you keep your eyes on the chat box and let us know what our friends are saying?
Yeah. I'm still scared.
I think it's Allie says that she may be wavering between both.
Yeah, and sometimes it depends on the day, right? Yeah, or the weather outside. My 2-year-old can't go, my two-year-old grandchild can't go outside today because it's rainy. And we're like, oh no. I think we're in the zone of disruption today, trying to figure out what to do with her.
Yeah.
What else do we have, Alicia?
Yesterday was an innovative day. Today is very disruptive. So like you said, day by day.
Right.
Carolyn shared that she's trying to excel in the innovation.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for the feedback there. We're going to keep rolling. And in a little while, we're going to talk about our circle of influence and where we can, how we can stay in that adoption zone and head towards innovation as parents and leaders in our families. Laura said, I want to get to innovation. Great. So we'll talk about some strategies there. Okay, Alicia, keep going with our PowerPoint. Change in the home, and Erica just shared some of her challenges, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Some people are out of work. Again, we're living with multiple family members. This is a big change curve, guys, and by the way, it takes time. But it starts with mindset, and it starts with the adoption and adapting up here first. And so we'll talk more about that as we go. So change in the home. Keep going, Alicia. All right, so this is what research says. Change is introduced. And for those of us in Florida, we know that we go through changes. We have hurricanes, we had tornadoes the other night. Change happens, but this one's a big one, all right? Most of the time, difficult change is imposed or brought in externally. The changes that are easy to embrace are those that we decide upon, right? Go ahead, Alicia. All right, there's that point of decision. We've crossed that line, deciding we're going to take this and we're going to adapt and make an action plan. Next one, Alicia. Keep going. And I love this slide because I think this is where some of us feel like we are. If not on a daily basis, occasionally, or back and forth, some of us are right there because that's where we are. So how do we get to the zone of innovation? And if you have a pen and a piece of paper, write this down. Number one, find time, and it doesn't have to be 2 hours, but find time once a day to do something for yourself. So I'm going to stop there because this is about wellness. The title of this was Wildly Important Wellness, Starting with Us. Let's take to the chat box a minute. What's one thing that you can do for yourself, whether it's 10 minutes in the bathroom with the door locked, as long as your kids are safe. Maybe it's taking a walk with your family. Maybe you could sneak away and read a book. What is it that you can do for you on a daily basis? Let's see what we've got there, Alicia. What are you seeing in the chat?
And shares that she's in the squigglies of the zone of adoption. That's where she's at.
Yeah.
Dr. Brembo's running. Yay. Exercising, garage workouts, yoga and walks, meditating every morning, 5 minutes, some more walking time, alone time.
Yes.
Big deal. Yeah, alone time.
Yes.
A cup of good coffee and drinking it really slow. Oh, I'm all about that too.
I love the nap in the hammock. That sounds really, really good.
Needlework, reading, aerobics.
Awesome. So here's my suggestion, friends, that you as planners and leaders in your family, write it down, because research says when we write down an action step, the percentage of actually executing on that action step goes up 64%. So write it down, put it on your fridge, put it in your Google Calendar, and stay true in the moment of choice. So when that moment comes, and it's time for you to get into that hammock with that book, and somebody calls out with a need, you know, if it's safe, of course, the needs of our children come first, but if it's a safe time and you're able to say, no, I'm going to my hammock, by gummy. This is time for me, because we know that when we take care of ourselves, the rest of our family will thrive. Have you ever heard that saying, when mama's not happy, nobody's happy? Well, I know we have dads here as well, but again, it's really important to take care of ourselves so that we can be mentally, emotionally available to our kids. So let's keep rolling with this, Alicia.
Well, now we're coming up on a breakout.
Yeah, so this is a chance that we want to give you to talk to each other and get to know you. So I will encourage you, before Alicia gives you directions, to get off your blackout, come on camera so you can see people's faces once you go into the Zoom room. Alicia, give us the directives for this.
Yeah, so if you want to snap a picture of these 2 questions, this is what we're going to go into the breakouts to talk about with our partners. So where are you now? Where are you as a family? You can either write those down, take a picture, because I'm going to unshare and then it's going to go away. So I don't want you to lose it. About 5 seconds. Okay, we're going to go into our breakout rooms and it's going to come up with join. Go ahead and join. We're going to have 4 minutes. It flies by. Let's use every time wisely. If you can come off of camera and mute, that would be great. And I'll give you a 1 minute countdown when you're going to come back to the rooms.
Hold on, Alicia. I would like to also encourage you, friends, to not just talk literally about where you are, although that's exciting too, to find out where everyone's located. Talk about where you are emotionally in that change curve that we just talked about, okay?
Okay, it's coming your way now. Sheila, can you hear me? Did she go to a room? Yeah.
I think she did. I think June did as well.
Yeah. Some people go back to the waiting room. If you're still with us, are you not getting a room? Nia, did it come up with a room for you or no? No. Okay.
Yes, it did. It's host is inviting you to join breakout room.
Okay, go ahead and join that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Rebecca, did it shoot you back over here?
Yes, I can hear you.
Did it send you into a room at all?
The host is inviting you to join the breakout room 5. To join.
Oh, I saw them. I saw that. Like they went to the cave. There was like a tornado. They went to the cave, and this one girl was like calling people, and Where's the place where you can change this stuff? Oh, right here. Wait, no, that's
Did they offer you to go to a room?
it's up here.
This is something different.
Hey, Alicia,
Yeah, it wasn't working well.
give them a 1 minute countdown.
So Betsy, there's a lot that weren't in a room and then the waiting room kept getting filled up. Is that a normal thing?
No. Mm-mm.
So, I mean, I opened the rooms. Is there anything that you can think that I did?
No, let's just stay full group though.
Okay, does that
Okay.
mean maybe that they weren't joined?
Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with, but let's bring them all back together.
Okay, I'll give them a 1 minute.
Okay.
There were some rooms that were
I joined
full
one.
and then others that weren't. So.
I joined one, but I want to keep the momentum, so let's just bring them all back.
And then they all go to the waiting room. So weird.
So we'll just work a little bit differently. Flexibility, right?
Of course, no problem.
All right, here they come. Wow. Okay, looks like everybody's come back.
Coming at you.
It looks like some of our friends ended up back in the waiting room. If you ended up back in the waiting room, put something in the chat. Not all of our breakout rooms worked out, I don't think. Let's see what your comments are in the chat, friends. Did everybody get into a breakout room? That's the question. If you did not get into a breakout room, just give us a quick message in the chat.
And if you didn't mean to go in a breakout room, that's totally fine too.
Sure,
Just that it was
absolutely.
That's
working
okay.
on our end.
I'm not seeing anything. So maybe everyone ended up in the breakout room that wanted to go, Alicia. So I think we're good.
Okay, and if we can encourage you to just go ahead and put yourself on mute for a couple minutes.
Okay, so Nia said she was kicked out of the room. Oh my goodness. All right, Nia, we'll see. Maybe we will not go
I
into the
think she was
breakout
kicked
rooms.
out because the time was up.
Oh, got it. Okay, all right,
It
yeah.
counted down, it counted down and the session was over.
Got it,
Okay.
Sheila. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Well, let's keep rolling, everybody. I talked to Amanda, who's delightful, and she's at home working, and she's got kids there as well. And she said that she's headed towards that zone of innovation, taking advantage of the opportunity, and that there's a silver lining. Hey, Amanda, would you mind coming off mute? Can you share with us what we talked about? Put you on the spot there, friend.
Yeah, I was just saying before all this happened, I was only on my job at my elementary school for 3 weeks. So it was really tricky transitioning to work at home when I really wasn't even sure of what my job duties were and stuff. So I've enjoyed having the platform of Teams with the other volunteer or liaisons, family and community liaisons, so that I could ask questions and hear what they're doing, and it's a great resource.
Yeah, thanks for that, Amanda. And again, I love how you found the silver lining. in this challenge. And that's what we want to do. We want to capitalize on the good and the things that can help us with resiliency. So let's keep rolling. Go ahead, Alicia, next slide.
Oh my gosh, it is this everywhere.
And if you're not on mute, friends, if you would go ahead and push your mute button, that would be great. And let's take a look at this slide together. All right. There's a cost of change, everybody. So I think we know this, but this is interesting. When you look at the zone of disruption and zone of adoption, it says this: the cost of change is the time and effort expended by the change and your reaction to it. This is really interesting. Just take a moment to reflect on that. The cost of change. And now look at the right-hand side of the screen where it says the benefit of change. The results are better than when the change started. So I wonder what it'll be like when we look back, knowing that we lived, survived, thrived through COVID. And by the way, it will end. This time in our lives will end. This is just a chapter, and we have to remind ourselves of that. Will we be able to reap the benefit of change? What will be lasting? New innovations, new relationships with our family members. We're spending a lot of time with them, right? So really quickly in the chat, what are the benefits that you think will come out of this change? What do we have, Alicia?
Let's give them just a minute.
Can we just go ahead and speak?
Nia, I would love that. Talk to us.
Oh, I think one of the changes, I think people will have no choice but to recognize disparities around them. Because what I see, I definitely see the homeless more now so than I ever have, because they are a class of people that already had nothing. And then COVID comes along, and now it's taken away the options to get food, because restaurants aren't throwing away as much food. They're not giving away as much food as they used to prior to COVID. So I think people's compassion for those that are less than or have less than will definitely change.
Wow. Nia, thank you. Thank you for reminding us, right? Yeah. And think about the people that are out of work.
Yeah, those, yeah.
Right? And are living paycheck to paycheck, right?
And those who were already living paycheck to paycheck.
Sure.
And now they have to go through the COVID crisis and continue to figure out how to live paycheck to paycheck, because even those people lost a chunk of their income.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, research would tell us that most Americans, if you look at percentages, are living paycheck to paycheck. Oh, okay. So some silver linings in the chat box. Alicia.
Yeah, some great things going on. So patience, Emily says maintaining less busyness, stronger support system, saving money by not eating out, greater appreciation of time with friends and family, creative use of technology for connection, adding value back to the time with family, trying not to overbook themselves and build in some downtime like you were just talking about a little while ago, innovation, new ways to learn, socialize, and embrace digital technology more than ever. Sheila shares more connections to family out of town now that we have all learned new ways to do that with technology. And then Teresa shared self-care. Some people are exercising more, eating healthier, getting more rest, appreciation for things we used to take for granted. People who felt alienated now have a shared experience with the rest of society. And then seeing what you really need and getting rid of what you don't.
Thanks, Alicia. Tracy, would you come off mute and talk to us a little bit about your comment? That was just compelling.
Sure. I just feel that there are a lot of people who feel socially isolated and feel that they're not connected to anyone in any way. And this experience makes us all feel like we're in the same boat. We're all struggling in some way, and just makes you feel like you can relate to others in some way. And people are reaching out more for support, I feel, virtually.
And so on one hand, what Nia said is so true. You know, the disparity comes to light in this new significant way. And yet in another way, the playing field of life is leveled because
Yes.
everybody worldwide, like, yes, Palisar said, is in this together. And so our empathy levels can truly increase. And so if you're writing down strategies for resilience and wellness in the family, you wrote down number 1. You wrote down take care of yourself, okay? 10 to 60 minutes a day, do something for yourself. Number 2, get together with your family members once a day and just say, hey guys, what are we grateful for today? You know, what is it? You know, maybe we had some toilet paper. That's a good thing. Seriously, maybe it's just a good meal. Maybe it's time together, but if we could continue that habit of gratefulness, that actually impacts the neurons in our brain, and it impacts our level of proactivity and productivity in the workplace. Did you know that? That being proactive and positive can actually increase your productivity as a worker and as a family member. So there's a lot of brain research here, and we're going to segue into that in a minute. Alicia, keep going. Tracy, thank you for sharing, by the way. Appreciate that. Hey, by the way, here's a worst case scenario. I promise we won't stay here very long because it's a little depressing, but some people do stay. They stay stuck and they can't adapt. And we know people like that in the workplace. We know people like that in our family. And I encourage you to have empathy, especially if you're an innovator. There are people on this call right now, and you're like me. You're an innovator. You're like, okay, I got to take action. What are we going to do? How are we going to have some control, some sense of control in a world that feels out of control, right? And so we head to innovation very quickly. Please have empathy for those who are still on the other side of this change curve. Sometimes they're right in your own house, right? Okay, keep going, Alicia. Here we go. Here's my little moment to remind you, friends, parents, take care of yourself. So let's see, let me pick on somebody here. If you don't mind speaking, and you can tell me, Betsy, I really don't want to talk, but I think I saw Joshua's face out there. Joshua, are you still with us? Come off mute a minute, would you? I saw a dad, I was so excited. He might not be with us any longer. Josh, you still out there? All right, Sheila, I'm gonna pick on you. What does that picture mean to you? Sheila Kane.
You have to come off mute, Sheila.
I'm coming, sorry.
That's okay.
So yeah, absolutely. This is the airplane where you've got to take care of yourself before you can take care of your traveling companions, your little traveling companions, you know, because back to, you know, if mama or daddy isn't taken care of, then you can't take care of the little ones. So
yeah, again, put on your own mask first, right?
Yeah.
All right, friends, let's keep going, Alicia. Thank you, Sheila. Okay, so what's going on right now? What are our barriers to that highly effective family? We're all here because we want to talk about and think about ways to improve our family. We love our families. Sometimes they drive us crazy. And we have real barriers here to that highly effective families. You know, we could all close our eyes and visualize the perfect family, couldn't we? And I don't think I've ever met one, except maybe on the Brady Bunch or something like that. I don't think there's a perfect family, but we can all visualize what we want to be or what the next step. So what are the barriers? Before we talk about what that great communication looks like or that ideal family looks like, what are we dealing with? Well, here are just a few things. Take a look at the list. Love to get your thoughts in the chat box about this list, and I know there are more. Yeah, so cognitive load. Many of us who are working at home right now are underneath what we call cognitive load, and that means we're learning new skills. We're learning how to navigate Zoom or Schoology with our little ones or whatever that platform is, Teams, Blackboard, and we could be right now intellectually on overload. Don't forget that that can exhaust us too. There are times when I'm sitting here, and maybe you too, and I'm maybe on the screen for an hour and a half, and I'm just as exhausted here, sitting here in my chair, as I would be outside walking around for 2 hours or in my workplace. Yes, and somebody said establishing expectations and pressure can be exhausting, absolutely. So these are some of the barriers to highly effective leadership in our families. Let's keep going, Alicia. And here's another strategy for moving past our barriers. This is number 3, guys, all right? Focus on what you can influence. So let's take a look at these 2 circles, all right? Stay with me, this is good stuff right here, and we can teach this to our kids as well, all right? And our family members. In our lives, we have a number of things we can influence and a number of things that we can't. And Dr. Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, would say this: when you focus on what you can influence, your circle of influence and how you impact others actually increases. So let me give you a concrete example. We're worried about a lot of things. We just saw that list in the slide before. We're fearful. We're worried about COVID. We don't want to be sick. We're worried about our loved ones all over the country. We're worried about our kids. We're worried about education, etc. Some of those things we can control, some we cannot. So here's my question for you parents. What are the things we can influence right now during this challenging time that will help our impact grow and help our family thrive? What can we control? Let's see what you got. Oh, outlook, attitude, nice. What else? Put it in the chat box, guys. Somebody said, Emily Dayton said, I learned nope this week. Not our problem, everyone. It was a new way to look at the issue. That's great, Emily. Okay, we can control being positive. Thank you, Anna. We can control how we handle things. And I love what you said, Allie. We can control structure in our home and support. Our kids need a schedule, guys. If you're writing down strategies for resiliency or a very well family, write down structure. Our kids are used to routine. So are we. And routines and structure bring safety. I know my daughter has done that with our 2-year-old granddaughter. You wake up, you get to watch Daniel Tiger, you eat your cereal, you drink your juice, you walk around the neighborhood, whatever that structure is. And that structure, that framework is helping little Reagan feel safe in a time of uncertainty. So we can influence that. What else can we influence? Ourselves, not anyone else. Yeah, can't change anybody else, guys, only ourselves. Strength, being supportive, and to some extent, our schedules. I know I do my best to shut it down by 5:30 so that I can have dinner with the family. And no, we're not always around the dinner table. Sometimes that's a lost art. Well, maybe that is a lost art, right? But at least we're all in front of the TV together. And it's that together time. All right, let's keep rolling with this. And I hope you'll take those circles with you and remember those, and feel free to teach those to your kids as well. We're going to fly past this. We're actually not going to break out at this point because we are running out of time. We only have about 24 minutes left together. So we're going to continue with these strategies, and make sure you walk out with a little toolbox. So take a look at this. This is a metaphor for, again, taking care of yourself. And Dr. Stephen Covey said that you can't cut wood with a dull saw. Another thing he said was, have you ever been so busy driving that you forgot to stop and get gas? And again, those are 2 more metaphors around taking care of yourself and how important that is. By the way, guys, as I direct teach some of this, please feel free to give your comments or put your comments in the chat box. Or if you want to come off mute and contribute, we'd love to have you talk. Thank you for starting that ball rolling, Nia. Love to hear your voices. Go ahead, Alicia. All right, so let's talk about our kids. You ready? We've talked about us. What are our kids going through right now? I'd love to hear someone speak up. Anybody want to go off mute and just share what your kids are going through right now?
Mine is a high school junior, and we've just come in out of the country after a couple of decades outside of the country. So he came to the US expecting this nice, calm, controlled environment compared to where we've been. And all of a sudden then he's without structure again. He's enjoying the online learning, but he's feeling very displaced again, right? And concerned that he's missing the opportunities he would normally have this summer and the opportunities to take the SAT, et cetera, et cetera. So he's feeling without that underlying structure.
Is this Laura?
Yes.
Laura, thank you for bringing that up. And I will share with you that one of the things that we teach when we teach the 7 habits is teaching hope. And I'll try to connection here with what you said. And I didn't realize that we could teach hope to people. And one of the ways that we can bring or teach hope is what we call agency. And agency would be, an example would be planning. So I encourage you, especially with your high schoolers, as they think ahead or they dream ahead and they're discouraged. Maybe they're not walking at graduation. They're not seeing their friends. I saw that in the chat box, right? They're feeling alienated. Have them, if you would, and model this for them, sit down and start planning, even if they take a calendar and it's either on technology or on paper, and they start saying something like, I'm going to exercise every day from 12 to 1. Once you start planning, you're actually bringing hope to life, and planning becomes an agency, an agent for our kids and for ourselves to bring hope back into our lives. So just a helpful hint for you that planning can truly change lives, and maybe just bringing that into your child's life would help bring what looks like a hopeless situation, some hope. What other thoughts are out there around your children's challenges right now? Anybody want to come off mute and share?
I worry about regression and me not being able to meet their needs that a teacher would for a 3-year-old and for a 3rd grader, and the pressure that comes along with being able to, navigate those challenges and those learning opportunities for both.
Yeah.
Can I just piggyback on that, because I have a 1st grader at home and he's still not able to read, and I really had like a moment last night of, oh my gosh, I think he's gonna have to learn how to read from me. Like, I gotta do it. So I love that, Allie, that you shared that.
All right, Allie, so I'm gonna make you feel better. You ready? Research says that children with positive role models in the house, some semblance of learning, doesn't tell time frame, but you can look up the research on this, do not regress up to 6 months. Like, you can go 6 months with positive peers in the house and some reading time and some structure built in with some learning time during the day, your kids are going to be okay. And what's really interesting, Allie and friends, is that a lot of schools and teachers are putting that research out on Facebook and on Twitter to really reassure our parents. And then they're jumping in to do what they can to structure that learning time for the kids. I think that you'll find that they're going to be just fine. In fact, research would say that your children would lose more if they were in school with an ineffective teacher. So just something to think about. And Allie, I have a feeling you're a pretty great role model. So, all right, let's keep rolling, Alicia. Our children are having some challenges now, guys, and we call this primary trauma, not necessarily what they're going through right now, but we do know that there are children who have other issues as well. So when we put COVID-19 on top of some other things with our kids, it can become primary trauma. And I'll share with you just in a minute how this impacts the family, okay? So take a look at some primary trauma, abuse, poverty, bullying, broken families, that type of thing. And then we put a change on top of it like COVID-19. We could be looking at some real trauma for our kids. Now, this isn't to scare you, okay? This is to tell you that this can impact our children in the future if this primary trauma wasn't handled before this change. Does that make sense? So I use this slide, just so you know, with my teachers that I talk to, because I want them to be prepared, and I want them to build some resilient strategies for the kids when they come back in August, or whenever they go back to school, right? Our teachers need not just think about academics when our kids return, but they need to think about how are we going to help them socially and emotionally, because they've been through many things. And again, if they have the COVID-19 challenge on top of primary trauma, this is what could happen. Go ahead, Alicia, show us the next slide. The primary trauma could look something like this. Kids come into a classroom. Let's pretend this is a 3rd grade class, and these are 38-year-olds, and that's a big class, by the way. We hope that our classrooms aren't that big in Florida, but let's just pretend. And our kids could come in with just a number of challenges. Again, some that were there before COVID, some that weren't quite rectified, some challenges that happened during COVID. And you could have a classroom that looks like this. So let's pretend as a teacher, you have how many kids? In an average class of 30 kids, more than half coming in with primary trauma. So what happens to the rest of the classroom? Go ahead, Alicia. What happens is that the classroom, and I want you to think about it in a family sense in a minute, could undergo or embrace or experience some secondary traumatic stress. Let me show you another picture. This is what could happen. Again, we're looking at this from a classroom level, then we'll look at it from a family perspective. This is Billy Bob in the middle. Let's presume that he's had some primary trauma in his life. Maybe he's had some abuse or neglect. He goes through COVID and his life is turned upside down again. It hasn't been handled. He hasn't had support, therapy, etc. He goes into the classroom, and that primary trauma becomes secondary trauma, which impacts this little boy or girl down here, which could be your child, and this teacher as well. The reason I'm showing you this, parents, is because this gives us more of an urgency around the structure and the support that we need to put into our homes for our kids, and that our teachers need to put in for our kids as they return to the classroom. I would love to hear your thoughts about this primary and secondary trauma piece. I'd love to hear you vocally. Come on off mute and share your thoughts about this. Marty, can I pick on you? You seem like you're really lively. I can tell. Oh, you have to go off mute, Marty. Push your little button. There you go, friend.
There we go.
All right, what are you thinking?
I think, it is a ripple effect. I think that when kids see, and I know because I go into classrooms all the time and I do presentations to kids about disabilities and differences. And when a child is having a meltdown because they're struggling with reading, it flows through the classroom where other kids, you have the kids that are, I call them the class moms, that feel really sad, and the others who feel like they want to make fun of them. So it can have good and bad effect. There can be other kids that are like, you're acting stupid, or, and then there are kids that feel really sympathetic, and they start to feel sad along with them.
Sure. And think of the impact academically. Valerie, Dr. Brown?
Yes, when I was looking at this, I was just thinking about all the primary trauma prior to COVID. In some families, this is such a norm. It's their functionality of this is normal for us. So to go back in the classroom with additional trauma, I'm not sure how they're going to respond. It coming to a reality that they are in 2 levels of trauma.
Yes, it's so. I mean, yes. Go ahead, Dr. Brown.
No, I just wanted to point that out of kids that live in this every day and don't really understand it's a system of trauma for them. It's functional in that capacity.
Yeah, and so one of our missives at Franklin Covey is to get this information in the hands of teachers and parents so that those structures and systems to build resiliency, and we can teach resiliency, can be put into place in the home and in the classrooms as our kids re-enter. It's going to be challenging, and we can't just pretend everything's okay. As I said earlier, we know this will be over one day. This isn't a forever thing, but it doesn't mean the impact won't be with us.
Kids in the background, but this is really, really important because at the end of the day, you have questions, and it really is our job to get them answered. So, Dr. Roberts, before we start taking people's question here. I do want to just give you a second just to give your background. It's very impressive, and this really is your bread and butter. Like I said, you are a professor at USF College of Public Health, special.
I think we've got another webinar joining in. That's exciting. But don't leave us. don't go there yet. We've got about 10 minutes together. Let's keep going. We're going to end up with some strategies in just a minute. Alicia, keep rolling.
I thought it was flowing so nicely at the beginning.
I know. We'll have to jump in on that one next. All right. So the strategy here to build resilience is to partner. Parents, we've got to partner with the educators. Our educators, I believe they're reaching out to you like they never have, and I hope so. And if they're not, contact the principals. I was a principal for 15 years. I would want to know that you're okay. You're our stakeholders too. It's not just the teachers right now. It's not just the kids. We want to make sure our parents are okay. So please connect with your schools if you haven't done so, or if they haven't reached out to you in the way that you need them to. All right, we're there as educators to serve you. And resilience is the key. We need to build it now, and we need to build it up so that our kids are good in the future, and so that our kids are okay, aren't impacted by the kids coming in with primary trauma so that it turns into secondary trauma. Let's keep going, Alicia. All right, we're going to take a look at this, because remember I said that a lot of this starts with mindset. How do we make those changes? It starts right here. Let's take a look. Alicia?
You may try to ignore the thoughts and emotions that go with a big uncontrollable stressor, but they keep finding a way in. And when you try and push them away, that tension and stress just makes them feel bigger and more out of control. Don't be afraid to acknowledge your emotions. Say, I see you. Guess we're hanging out. Then use your inner coach to process these thoughts and emotions to decrease your pain and stress. First, name the emotion. Hey, fear. Hi, sadness. Anger. I'm not afraid of you. I'll let you in. Then validate. Normalize what you are feeling. Work with, not against, that feeling. Emotions are signals. If you tell them they're irrational, they'll only get bigger. Of course I'm having this emotion. This is something big in my life. Then process and accept what you cannot control. Use your inner coach to talk back to your emotions. Wonder why I'm feeling this way. Is it a subconscious thought? Is this an uncontrollable in my life? I can't change it. I'll work to accept it. Then you can refocus and move on with what you can control. If you can't let them go, let them hang out, but recognize that you have other thoughts and emotions you can choose to focus on too. I'm going to choose to focus on what I can control, and I can control me.
Ooh, nice. Yes, so Sheila, I am going to encourage you to get this video out to everybody, or Alicia, if you could put the link in the chat box. Yeah, I would actually, and I might do it myself tonight.
Experience too much stress very quickly or slowly building.
I would actually encourage you, and I think I might tonight show this video to my family, to my kids, because I'm just wondering, and I don't think I've done this, have you asked your kids what they're feeling? Like, how are you doing? Are you afraid? Yesterday I heard a renowned psychologist say, don't let your kids watch the news. And don't even have it on in the background because it's so scary right now. I thought, okay, well, that's probably a good idea. I mean, I get scared when I watch the news. I don't know about you, friends. So yeah, it's not typically on when my 2-year-old's around, because even 2-year-olds can pick up fear. But when's the last time you asked your kids, how are you? What are you afraid of? How are you feeling? There's a strategy for you. Put that on your list. Not just talk about gratefulness during this time, but what's making them afraid, and then bring them back to the circle of control and influence. Emily said that they have a book called What Am I Feeling that they read every day. Emily, talk to us just for a minute, would you? Come off mute.
Hi.
Hi.
So this book, we are a Christian family, so it was recommended by our church, and it just teaches the kids to acknowledge, to name their feeling, take a breath, and then to process it like the video said, but in this particular book it says lift it up to God in a prayer, and it goes through different scenarios, being afraid, sad, happy, angry, and at the end of the book there's a chart with 16 to 20 different emotions and a face that matches the emotion, and they're able, both my kids are 5 and 3, so we read it with both of them and they point at what they're feeling and then we talk about it.
Yeah. How's it going, Emily? Are they doing well with that?
They do well with the book. After this, I think we'll start it in the morning and maybe do it 2 or 3 times throughout the day, because it is a roller coaster. And today, my 5-year-old is very sad. It's just a lot of non-normalcy for her. And we're able to work from home, so it's just that balance of being productive in our jobs so we can continue to have a job, and then also giving them the emotional support that they need and finding that balance. And it changes every day.
Yeah, and you know what? When you think about that, Emily, thanks for sharing. It's a loss. Our kids have suffered a loss, friends. There is actually grieving that our kids are going through, whether we see it or not, or think they are or not, no matter how well adjusted and resilient they are, there's a loss. And I asked my daughter the other day, I said, I wonder what Reagan, who's 2, thinks about not going to school anymore. Daycare was school. She went to school every day. I mean, she's got to know she doesn't go to school every day. Something's different. Why is she at grandma's house every day, right? So please, please, I encourage you to sit and talk to your kids about resiliency, about what they can control, about fear, about what they're going through. And you know what? This is what I encourage teachers to do and families. Have a morning meeting, like Emily just said. Start the day. Hey guys, I'm getting my coffee. We're all gonna sit together. It's not gonna kill you, Billy. We're gonna sit here for 10 minutes. We're gonna talk about the day. We'll talk about our structure. How's everybody doing? Give me one word, write it down. What's one word about how you're feeling? You know, they might write something like bored and irritated, Mom, that you're making me sit here. But I think it's worth it. And I think over time they'll open up to us. Morning meetings, according to Emily, have been game changers for her family. Those are game changers in the classroom. That's a relation piece that's an investment in the academic piece that you're worried about, Allie. You mentioned it earlier, right? And that's what I tell teachers, invest in the relationship and the academics will soar. All right, let's keep rolling, Alicia. We're almost to the end. This is a picture of what we call the stimulus and response, that brain research that tells us this. Between what happens to us and how we react is 10 seconds. That because we're human, we have the ability or capability to not react, but to respond to what's thrown at us in life. And if we could remember this, let's see the next picture, Alicia, and teach this to our kids. Hey guys, this happened to us. This COVID thing has happened to us, but we don't have to react because we're human and this is a gift that was given to us. We can respond. So what does it mean in our family to respond? What do we do in our family? Well, we meet every morning in a morning meeting. We talk about what we're grateful for. We have an action plan for every day. We build hope in our family by building out our monthly calendar around items that we can control. We hope and dream for the future, knowing that there will be an end to this time in our lives. And Mom and Dad, we take care of ourselves every single day so that we can take care of you. I want to show you a couple of other slides and then we'll end with a video and a couple comments from Alicia and Dr. Bram. There's the freedom to choose. This is all Dr. Covey's work. He talks about the 7 habits, and he also developed a book called Habit 8. Love to get back with all of you and talk about the 7 habits, but this is so important. Teaching our kids that we have the freedom to choose our response no matter what happens to us. That's powerful, guys. Right there, we're empowering ourselves and our kids to know that there are some things that we can control and that builds hope. Keep going, Alicia. Just fly through these. I don't think we need much time on triggers. Let's head to the last video. And I'd just like to encourage you to remember, friends, that everybody has a story. We can also build not just hope, but we can build empathy along with resilience, and we can teach our kids how to be empathetic. We can take them to that change management curve and say, you know, Dad's not really in innovation right now, kids. He's still adopting and adapting. So we need to love him anyway, all right? There are things that we can do to teach empathy. We can teach self-advocacy. We can teach our kids to pause and respond. These are just additional strategies to help build resiliency. Feel free to snap a picture of this slide. This is a really great slide. We can hold those family meetings. We can create family mission statements. Who are we at the Jones family? This is how we act and believe. And let's write this out, you guys, and let's all sign it and put it on the fridge. And when we have our morning meeting every morning, let's look at it and see if this is still who we are and what we believe. And are our actions and the way we talk to each other and treat each other aligned? Because guys, sometimes we know that the people we love the most, we don't treat the best. I oftentimes treat strangers better than I treat the people that I love the most. There's a great lesson for your kids right there. Don't forget that intentional communication. Alicia, take us to the last video as we close out today. Hey, thanks everyone. I just encourage you to love your families, love yourselves, take care of you, teach resilience, communicate intentionally, provide hope, right? And take advantage of this time in order to find the silver linings. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Brim for just any final words, and then I wish you a wonderful day, everybody. Dr. Brim?
This presentation was awesome. I want to start out, first of all, thanking Franklin Covey, Alicia, and Elizabeth for this awesome presentation. I gleaned from all of the slides important pieces for not only my life, my family, but also my work. But more importantly, it gave participants an opportunity to communicate with others because we've been so isolated from the ones that we fellowship with, work with, our families, our kids are isolated from their friends, but just to hear feedback from others outside our normal work circle It was awesome. So I want to say thank you. I'm so grateful. It's a recording that the ones that could not attend will have an opportunity to hear this great presentation. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Brim, for this great honor and opportunity. We have a quick survey for you. Alicia, take 1 second and tell us about the survey.
Yeah, I'm going to, if you could just hang out for just a minute, I'm going to put this survey in the chat box, and if you can just quickly fill it out. It's super fast. Give me 1 second. You might have to copy and paste it if it's not like a clickable link. So if you could just copy and paste that, and I'll pass it over to Sheila. It was really nice being with all of you.
Wow. I don't know what to say because I still have tears in my eyes from that video, even though I watched it yesterday and knew what was coming. We were just, grateful and privileged to be all together today, together with you, Franklin Covey people, and together with you, some Pinellas County School staff, and mostly the families and parents. So we'll be back. We have a full schedule of Parent Power Hours. Please check out pcsb.org/Parent Academy. The recording for this session today, the link for that, as well as invitations to future sessions will be available. So have a great day, guys.
Okay, so Ms. Kane, remind some of our parents that will be interested